So let me get this straight. The prosecutor says to the defendant, "You came home from work early and found your wife in bed with a strange man." "That's correct," says the defendant. "Upon which," continues the prosecutor, "you take out a pistol and shoot your wife, killing her." "That's correct," says the defendant. "Then my question to you is, why did you shoot your wife and not her lover?" asked the prosecutor. "It seemed easier," replied the defendant, "than shooting a different man every day." A doctor tells a rich old man that he's going to die if he doesn't get a new heart soon. The old man tells the doctor to search the world for the best heart available. Money is no object. A few days later, the doctor calls the old man and says he has found 3 hearts, but they are all expensive. The old man reminds the doctor that he is filthy rich and implores him to tell him about the donors they came from. Well, the first one belonged to 22-year-old marathon runner. Never smoked, ate only the most healthy foods, was in peak condition when he was hit by a bus. No damage to the heart, of course, but it costs $100,000. The old man, waving off the last part about the cost, asks the doctor to tell him about the second donor. This one belonged to a 16-year-old long-distance swimmer, high school kid, lean and mean, drowned when he hit his head on the side of the pool. That heart will set you back $150,000. "Okay," said the old man. "What about the third heart?" "Well, this one belonged to a 58-year-old man. Smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day, weighed over 300 pounds, never exercised, drank like a fish. This heart is going for $500,000. $500 grand? The old man exclaimed. "Why so expensive?" "Well," said the doctor, "this heart belonged to a lawyer, so it was never used." A wealthy old lady decides to go on a photo safari in Africa, taking her poodle along for company. One day, the poodle starts chasing butterflies, and before long, discovers that he's lost. Wandering about, he notices a hungry-looking leopard heading rapidly in his direction. The poodle thinks, "Oh," noticing some bones on the ground close by, he immediately settles down to chew on the bones, with his back to the approaching cat. Just as the leopard is about to leap, the poodle exclaims loudly, "Boy, that was one delicious leopard. I wonder if there are any more around here." Hearing this, the leopard halts his attack in mid-strike. A look of terror comes over him, and he slinks away into the trees. "Phew," says the leopard. "That was close. That poodle nearly had me." Meanwhile, a monkey, who had been watching the whole scene from a nearby tree, figures he can put this knowledge to good use and trade it for protection from the leopard. So, off he goes, but the poodle sees him heading after the leopard with great speed and figures that something must be up. The monkey soon catches up with the leopard, spills the beans, and strikes a deal for himself with the leopard. The leopard is furious at being made a fool of and says, "Here, monkey, hop on my back so you can watch me chew that poodle to bits." Now, the poodle sees the leopard coming with the monkey on his back and thinks, "What am I going to do now?" But instead of running, the dog sits down with his back to his attackers, pretending he hasn't seen them yet, and waits until they get just close enough to hear. "Where's that damn monkey?" the poodle says. "I sent him off an hour ago to bring me another leopard." One day, Bill complained to his friend that his elbow really hurt. His friend suggested that he go to a computer at the drugstore that can diagnose anything quicker and cheaper than a doctor. Simply put in a sample of your urine, and the computer will diagnose your problem and tell you what you can do about it. It only costs $10. Bill figured he had nothing to lose, so he filled a jar with a urine sample and went to the drugstore. Finding the computer, he poured in the sample and deposited the $10. The computer started making some noise and various lights started flashing. After a brief pause, out popped a small slip of paper on which was printed, "You have tennis elbow. Soak your arm in warm water. Avoid heavy lifting. It will be better in 2 weeks. Later that evening, while thinking how amazing this new technology was and how it would change medical science forever, he began to wonder if this machine could be fooled. He mixed together some tap water, a stool sample from his dog, and urine samples from his wife and daughter. To top it off, he masturbated into the concoction. He went back to the drugstore, located the machine, poured in the sample, and deposited the $10. The computer again made the usual noise and printed out the following message. Your tap water is too hard. Get a water softener. Your dog has worms. Get him vitamins. Your daughter is using cocaine. Put her in a rehabilitation clinic. Your wife is pregnant with twin girls. They aren't yours. Get a lawyer. And if you don't stop jerking off, your tennis elbow will never get better. Two young guys appear in court after being arrested for smoking dope. The judge says, "You seem like nice young men, and I'd like to give you a second chance instead of jail time. I want you to go out this weekend and try to convince others of the evils of drug use. I'll see you back in court Monday." On Monday, the judge asks the first guy, "How did you do over the weekend?" "Well, Your Honor, I persuaded 17 people to give up drugs forever." 17 people? That's wonderful. How did you do it?" "I used a diagram, Your Honor. I drew 2 circles like this, big and small. Then I told them that the big circle is your brain before drugs, and the small circle is your brain after drugs." "That's admirable," says the judge. Then he turns to the second guy. "And how did you do?" "Well, Your Honor, I persuaded 156 people to give up drugs forever." "Wow," says the judge. 156 people. How did you manage to do that?" "Well, I used a similar diagram," the guy says. "I drew 2 circles like this, big and small. Then I pointed to the little circle and said, 'This is your asshole before prison.'" The FBI had an open position for an assassin. After all the background checks, interviews, and testing were completed, they had narrowed the field down to 3 possible agents. For the final test, the FBI agents took one of the men to a large metal door and handed him a gun. "We must know that you will follow your instructions no matter what the circumstances. Inside the room, you will find your wife sitting in a chair. We need you to kill her." The man said, "You can't be serious. I could never shoot my wife." The agent said, "Then you're not the right man for this job. Take your wife and go home." The second man was given the same instructions. He took the gun and went into the room. All was quiet for about 5 minutes. The man came out with tears in his eyes. "I tried, but I can't kill my wife." The agent said, "You don't have what it takes. Take your wife home." Finally, the last man was given the same instructions, to kill his wife. He took the gun and went into the room. Shots were heard, one after another. They heard screaming, crashing, banging on the walls. After a few minutes, all was quiet. The door opened slowly, and there stood the man, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Some idiot loaded the gun with blanks," he said. "I had to strangle that bitch to death." My friends, if you want to watch other funny jokes, subscribe to the channel.